Newton Faulkner, pleased to meet you.
Ah, pleasure to meet you too.
How did you get involved with BBC Introducing today?
I have no idea actually. Stuff just happens to me. Things just come up. I'm trying to think how I actually ended up here. I think it was an email, and I said yes.
Okay.
And then I was here. It's amazing.
Hey. What sort of advice have you been handed out?
I was getting pretty technical because it was obviously the very guitar-y one that I was doing. So mainly kind of just fiddly guitar-y stuff, and just about approaches to playing. Because obviously there are so many different ways of getting from A to B, and it's just looking at some of the methods that are available.
Yeah, I mean, you've got a real unique, distinctive style of playing. How did you sort of nurture that yourself then?
Well, I was convinced I invented it for about a week, because the way it came together was I played a lot of things. I had like keyboard lessons, drum lessons, bass, and was kind of constantly kind of moving around. I actually just had a guitar relatively late, but when I did, it was the one place where everything I'd been messing around with could kind of live in one place. So kind of everything worked on it. So the drum stuff worked on the body, and obviously all the kind of chord knowledge, and it just felt right. But that was when I was about 14, and I'd been having. And one thing I need to find out is when I started having keyboard lessons, because I know I was tiny, but I don't know how tiny. But yeah, I kind of went through that, and then after thinking I invented it for about a week, in which I was very cocky and thought I was a genius, someone turned up with a Thomas Lee track and was like, "Have you heard this guy? Because the thing you thought you invented, I think you might not have done." And not only was it the same thing, it was also considerably better.
Yeah, that was a bit deflating, must have been.
It was at the time, but then it became inspiring just quickly as it kind of came in.
And bit by bit, how did you enter the industry, as it were?
Well, I signed a production deal between a publishing company and a radio PR company, which is quite a strange thing. I think it was one of the first kind of deals of its nature at the time. So I kind of came through a fairly bizarre route, but everything in the way it stepped up has all been through gigs. It's all been through gigging. So it's been people seeing me live and then being like, now I understand this. Because even when I was recording, like the whole first batch of recordings, early days, you'd play it to people and they'd be like, yeah, it's nice. And then they see it live and be like, oh, I see. I didn't really get it, because it's a visual style of music, which I know is kind of a contradiction in terms, but it is that kind of multitasking. It's very visually kind of interesting, and I think it's quite tricky to capture that on a recording, because you can't see that everything's happening at the same time, and you could just as easily do it in a bunch of separate parts and it would be considerably easier.
Given advice here must be second nature. I mean, I remember the last time I saw you at Union Chapel, you had had a little camera, you were talking through exactly what was going on.
I love explaining what I'm doing, because I've been kind of misinterpreted a few times. Like, people have thought that I'm using kind of loop pedals and stuff, which I don't.
Yeah, I mean, it is amazing. You even had a little camera coming down.
Yeah, a camera on my feet. I mean, I missed the loop boat years and years ago. I took a little break from gigging and was writing a lot. And then when I went back, the next gig, I think it was a Bedford one where everyone does 2 songs. So there's loads of people playing.
Yeah.
And I was the only person not using a loop pedal. And then after that, I was like, well, that's kind of gone. And Katie Tunstall had just come out. She did it so well. And also, it's a fantastic tool, but it's not one that I feel I want to utilise yet. Maybe at some point, just for fun. But also, I wouldn't leave the house. I wouldn't leave the house for I'd be in there for a good 6 months, I think, just looping myself up. But I'm kind of a multitasker. So everything that you hear is actually being played.
Yeah, no, incredible. What's 2012 hold then for Newton
New
Faulkner?
album.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we're looking for kind of summer release, and it's kind of halfway through at the moment.
So what sort of direction are we sort of moving in?
It's gone quite kind of driving. It's still very guitar-y, but kind of guitar-y, and it's a lot less subtle than the second album was, because the second album was quite multi-layered. This is kind of very few things, so each track is kind of quite simplistic in its kind of makeup. But it's just about songs and guitar playing. I've gone for a kind of driving vibe, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So a lot of the songs are kind of made to be one arm out the window, one arm on the steering wheel.
And what's your favourite track so far on the album at this point?
There are like because the gap's been bigger than I originally I'd written an album ready for last year, so there's too many to pick from. There's like 60 something.
60 songs.
Yeah.
Oh, you haven't actually whittled it down to the final.
We're getting closer, but it's still a question mark, and you never know. I'm kind of at the stage now where I've kind of mapped out the kind of ebb and flow and kind of vibe of it, and I'm just trying to outdo myself vibe-wise on like certain things, which is.
Who do you look for? Because I know sometimes, obviously, when you're closer to the project, you can't be closer than singer-songwriter. Who do you look to for inspiration, or?
I can't hear it anymore. Yeah, is actually sat and listened through to albums and checked the shape. I guess I'm kind of checking it against the first album, because that was very much listened to from start to finish, and that was it was relatively rare then, and is even rarer now. Like, so it's probably a harder thing to achieve. But I obviously a lot of people are saying that the album's dead and it's all about singles, and I just, as much as I can kind of see where they're coming from, it's something I'm never going to fully accept, because I love albums.
Yeah.
I love being able to sit and listen to like a whole kind of journey from start to finish, and it's very much what I've done with every album I've made through the kind of interludes and the things linking it together, and just trying to make it feel like a kind of collection of work that is meant to be listened to in one go, as opposed to just
definitely
on shuffle.
What do you think is the greatest song you've written off the first two albums?
I'm just trying to think. I guess the one I'm kind of most proud of is probably the last track off the second album, which was a song called "I'm Not Giving Up Yet."
Oh yeah.
Which was, I don't know, it did exactly what I wanted it to do. In terms of I kind of set myself quite a difficult task, and then kind of went straight down the middle, and it kind of ended up exactly how I wanted it to. And it's one that I still close gigs with it.
Yeah. And if you had to, somebody that hadn't, Music News watchers that haven't actually got any of your albums as yet, what would you say the first 3 songs they should check out? Which one should they go for?
Off the first album, maybe a kind of bit of I Need Something. Probably Dream Catch Me, because that is one that just connected with a lot of people. And then there's a whole bunch of really fun stuff as well that I always kind of put in its own little box, just because it's kind of like a separate deal. But then I Took It Out on You. I really like, and I'm Not Giving Up Yet. It's a good one, but maybe that's for kind of a bit later. Maybe like a kind of Gone in the Morning, or a happy fun one.
Yeah, that's up to you. They're all good anyway. How's the wrist, by the way?
Oh, it's fine. No, that was a long time ago now.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'm trying to think if I can show you the scars or not.
Jeez.
But yeah, no, it's a chunky one. But that was relatively short-lived. It was back to normal really, really fast.
No sort of, I don't know, numb pains at all or anything?
No, not at all. I mean, the only thing that occasionally aggravates it, and it's very mild, is kind of humidity can sometimes.
Yeah.
Can sometimes get to it, but generally it's fine.
Great stuff.
Because it's a bit scary, because the bit that I hit to get the bass sound, the metal plate actually curves over the end of my radius, to be slightly gross and technical, which is the exact bit that I hit with. But it hasn't changed the tone. I think there's enough flesh in the way.
Superb. Well, thanks a lot for your time. Anything you'd like to say to Music News watchers?
Hi. Other than that, I'm cool.
Superb. Thanks a lot for your time. Have a great year.
That's what you chose.
Thank you.
You went with that. That's a good one.